Good evening. My name is Keith Romano. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Is the recorder on?
Yep.
The recorder is on, but I don't see, there he is, BJ. Okay.
This is the Inland Wetlands Commission meeting for the town of Monroe. It is
February 10th.
February 10th, 2021, and the time is 7:03 p.m. I take a roll call of members of the commission and staff present tonight during tonight's remote meeting. Please answer here present, starting with myself, Keith Romano, Lois Spence, our vice chair and secretary.
Here.
Clark Ingris.
Here.
Ross Masaraco. Here. Yeah. BJ Hall.
Here.
Denise Halstead, our Inland Wetlands agent.
Present.
Donna Sosinski, our office manager.
Here.
And Sarah Stroud, recording secretary.
Here.
Before we start, I'll read our mission statement and how the meeting will proceed. Inland Wetlands mission statement. The objective and purpose of the Inland Wetlands Commission is to provide for the overall protection and preservation of the inland wetlands and watercourses within the town of Monroe. Meeting procedure. In the normal course of our meetings, we will hear public hearings and other applications. The protocol for public hearings is to have an applicant make a presentation to the commission, during which and after which the commission will be asking the applicant questions. Due to remote meeting status, I'd like to ask applicants to keep presentations as concise as possible. The commission will then review town staff and other independent comments. The meeting will then be open for public comment. I will ask that all comments be made to the chair or commission. After any and all comments pro, in opposition, or of a general nature are made, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond. Again, due to remote meeting status, please keep comments or questions direct, and a time limit of 3 minutes may be imposed. It is not necessary that the applicant respond, but generally in their best interest to do so. There will be no further opportunity for new questions unless new materials entered in as evidence or testimony during the response. Please keep all comments pro and con specific to inland wetlands related matters. Other applications that do not involve a public hearing will follow a similar format, with the exception that there will be no public comments allowed. The meeting follows our published agenda unless otherwise amended. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Not to the published one. I just don't know whether you guys got the one. There was just the addition of 251 Fan Hill Road, but it is on the published agenda, and that was an agent approval.
Okay.
It just wasn't on the agenda that was in your packets.
Okay. Okay, great. General public participation. This is a period of time reserved for public participation. Anybody who wants to address the commission for any matter whatsoever, hopefully wetlands related, now is the time to speak up. All right, that's good there. Well, it doesn't say specifically. I mean,
I know, it's just, yeah, let's hope it's wetlands related, right?
yeah. Subdivision report recommendations to P&Z Commission, none. Regular meeting, no public input. IWC 2021-01, 74 Enterprise Drive. Construction of industrial building with associated site improvements. This must be
Where's Dave?
Dave. He's here.
Dave, yep, there he is. I see him coming on.
Good evening, members of the commission. This is an application for 74 Enterprise Drive. Originally, it was approved by the commission back in 07. Since 07, phase 1 has been constructed. The parking areas have been constructed. The storm drainage has all been installed. The commission reapproved it back in June of 19. And what happened at that point was we were subject to the old extensions. So all we're seeking to do this evening is to extend this permit. There have been no changes. I take that back. There has been one change. The commission wanted 2 storage boxes to be relocated out of the upland review area. That has been done, and it shows on the as-built plan. But what we're applying for is to build building number 2 and to finish the site. And so there's been no changes on the original permit. This is simply, I'll use the term rolling over the approval that was done back in 19 so that we can go forward. We have an identical application into the Planning and Zoning Commission. They heard the application last week, and they're just waiting for word from this commission. So be glad to answer any questions. But this is just rolling over of an application you've already approved.
All right, does any commissioners have any questions for Dave on this application?
I do.
Mrs. Betts?
Is there any kind of stormwater quality besides the detention basin that's being provided for the extra parking areas or for any of the parking areas?
Yes, originally we had a separator catch basin that was or manhole that was located prior to discharge into the detention basin, and all of that has been installed.
Where is that at the pipe that empties into the north? I guess that would be the northwest section of the detention basin. I see a pipe that comes down and goes onto a riprap pad. Is that stormwater quality unit right before that?
Yes, if you're looking at the as-built plan, there is a sand oil separator that is been installed in line with that. I thought it was a swirl manhole, but it's a sand oil separator, and that, as I said, that's been installed. That's been in there since probably 2010.
Okay. What's going to be done with the section that is directly south of the new parking area to the north? There's a large area that says containers to be removed. What's going to happen with that?
That area is going to get paved,
Dave?
and it's designed so that the stormwater will all be directed into the existing catch basin.
Wait a minute, I lost you. The stormwater will be directed where?
Into the existing drainage. It's basically, we did add some paving as a result of the planning and zoning approval behind the building, but the rest of the remaining area that is now gravel and it's graded and it's used as a driveway, that area will all get paved.
I'm not talking about the driveway itself. I'm talking about the area to the north of the driveway. There's a large section right below the new parking spaces.
Right below I'm not sure, where it says temporary storage area.
Yeah, the area below that, there's marked parking spaces. And then what's going to happen with that other large space? The silt fence goes around it. Is that the area you're talking about being?
That's the septic system is in that area, and that's, it's basically stabled now. But if that area is to be loamed and seeded.
It's going to be seeded. A dog barked right as you said that.
Sorry.
That's okay. So that area is going to be seeded then, not paved.
Right. Yeah, the parking area, I misunderstood you. The parking area is it's rough graded now,
Right.
but right immediately east of that area is where the septic system is. That's gonna be grass.
Okay, is that notated on the plan? Yes, I guess it is. Okay. All right, I do see it down here. I'm sorry, I missed it. Sheet. Okay, those are my only questions.
Okay, Commissioner Gingras, anything from you?
No, I'm all set, thanks.
Commissioner Masteracco?
No questions.
Commissioner Hall?
Just a verification here. Looking at the last notice of certification of decision amendment to previous approval dated June 27th, 2019, the commission approved the changes. Since that date, July, whatever that was, 2019, have there been any statutory changes that would need to be addressed in approving this?
Not that I'm aware of. I would turn to Denise also. No, there's nothing that I'm aware of.
Are we still good, Denise?
Yeah, I didn't see any issues. Okay,
Very good.
Are you talking about the approval date amendment?
There was an approval in 2019 to an amendment from 2007.
Right.
So we were good to 2019. I just wanted to make sure there were no changes between the date in 2019 and today that we would consider before reapproving this.
It should be, everything should still be good. It should be fine.
Good.
Right.
I have further questions then.
I have one
Okay.
more.
Oh.
And this
Commissioner Hess.
one's for Denise.
Yes.
The conditions to be addressed in the last approval that we had, one that BJ was just referring to, June 27, 2019. Do we need to carry forward any of those conditions?
I would probably need to look at them, but they have a CO for the first building. So the only way they could have gotten it was based on meeting the conditions.
Well, this has to do with the new, I think it has to do with the new parking lot, doesn't it? Maybe it doesn't. No, maybe it doesn't. Okay, if you could just run through them, you know, not on the record or anything, but I mean, run through them and see if there's anything that still needs to be addressed within that approval before we do the next one. I just wanted to make sure we carried them forward.
What's the date of the letter? I don't happen to have
The
that.
June 27th approval of 2019. The amendment to the previous approval. Was included in the packet.
I don't have the packet.
This is the big one that was included from Staff Bjorklund.
I don't have that.
You don't have that one.
No.
Yeah, if this
I
is
could
Dave
go
Bjorklund.
find it and take a look.
Yeah, I believe all the conditions that were to be addressed within 270 days were addressed because this has been recorded on the land records.
Right. That's what I recollect, because we had to, in order to get the initial CO, you had to take care of all that stuff.
Okay. How about the report from the health department for the new building?
I believe there is a letter from the health department and the system has been installed and approved.
Yep.
And the system was installed large enough to serve both buildings.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, with the future, the types where we have the future, you know, it makes it a little harder because everything had to be done for the first one. So
Right.
the septic system had to include both, the stormwater had to include both. So,
Okay. All right,
But,
That's
you
it.
know, we wouldn't have been able to record it on the land records unless
Right.
all the conditions were satisfied.
okay,
right.
super. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is that anything else from any of the commissioners? All right, Ross? No. Okay. All right. Thank you, David. Anything to read into the record?
No, there isn't, because this is a regular review and we did not have any. It's all good. So we can just, if you're done, you could close the review and talk about it during deliberations.
All right. Someone want to make a motion to move this to deliberation? Go ahead. Oh, everybody's muted.
I think we just have to close the meeting.
With that, just have to close
I
it.
think we just close the
Right.
close the
All right,
hearing.
we'll close this regular meeting and
Regular
move
review.
to regular review rather, and move it to deliberations. All right. Next is IWC 2020-10, 472 Pepper Street, parking expansion, construction of drainage to accommodate runoff, continued from 1/27/21.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Larry Edwards. Office is 227 Stepney Road in Easton. We basically have gone through and made some changes to the plans in response to the commission's comments from the last meeting and also staff comments, which were forwarded to us since the last meeting. Or actually, they were just before the previous meeting. I'm going to go through the commission's comments first, and some of these, the first one concerning the mitigation of filled wetlands, I'm going to, I think Steve has answered that at the previous hearing, and also I believe he submitted additional data to the commission for their review. We pulled back the limits of the disturbance behind the garage area that was proposed on the plan.
Excuse me, this is Jason Edwards. Can I share my screen, please?
What's that?
So,
I'd like
Jason,
to share my screen as part of the
Jason, state your name for the record.
Jason Edwards, J. Edwards Associates.
Thank you.
Okay. There was questions about the planting, what was going to happen inside the basins. And it's proposed just to do a wetlands mix at this time. They're dry basins. They're not going to have water in them all the time. And it's easier for maintenance just to have them in a grass condition so that they can be mowed to maintain them. There's some staff comments, which again, we'll go over when I get done with the commission's comments. As far as the arborvitae for uses in the buffer area, that's what was recommended by the landscaper, which is one of the tenants here. They are not an invasive species. They are basically deer friendly in that deer don't like them, so that they stand a better chance of becoming mature and functioning as we were proposing. And we have therefore, continued to use those. One of the next comments was, additional plantings in the buffer area, and we have included 35 blueberry bushes dispersed amongst the other plantings, which will help to fill in the area and provide a more substantial long-term buffer for the wetlands. The liquid tank that was mentioned in the commission, this is the tank I believe was the one in question. At this point, it's what it is. It's a tote that the contractor landscaper uses to transport water when he's putting in plantings. They fill it with water so they can fill it without using the land, the homeowner's well source. And as far as we know, there's nothing in it right now, so it's empty. But that's what it is. It's up there because it's left there for the winter because it is not used. So it's a water tank, and there is no reason to be concerned about what is in it, because there is nothing besides, if anything, there might be still some water or ice now in the bottom of it. As far as the staff comments go, we went through them and made some changes to the plans. Oh, I want to say one other item that was brought up was to install oil separators for the basins. We have included those. They're shown as separator units, and they're not just, there will be more than just a oil separator. There will also be a debris separator and particle separators. They're one and the same, but those were included. That was a comment from the commission. We have 2 staff reports that we responded to. These were additional comments since the first review we had with the staff. The ones from the town engineer were, some of them were just explanations that we sent back to them. He had concerns with the test pit data, which was on the plans, and he just didn't know where to find them on the plans, so we gave him that information. It was concerning with the pipe in the rain garden, and we have the pipe proposed. He wanted the flow calculations for the water quality basins, which we provided him, and he requested a bond estimate, which we provided. The wetland staff comments, the one I think was already previously addressed. The comment regarding the wetlands limits, from 85 to now, I think that was answered in a letter from Dr. Danzer. There was an area that was cited basically on our aerial map. I think everybody mixed that one of the tenants was parking some vehicles actually in the wetlands. So again, I'm going to leave that up to Dr. Danzer, and he's got a mitigation plan proposed for that. And one of the other staff comments is when we're submitting to P&Z, and we are hoping to have that in this week. The other item that I just remembered, there was a comment concerning the quote pipe location that is at the tail end of the wetlands that comes up into the side of building number 3. It was kind of, we thought that Steve Danzer, when he did his site walk, had actually seen a pipe there. He had not seen a pipe. He just saw there was a source of water coming from somewhere through the edge of the embankment. And we could not, at this point, we went out to look, but with the amount of snow on there, it's almost impossible to see anything now. And I don't know if there is a pipe there. Yeah, I think we discussed it, at the last meeting. If you look at the earlier maps, there is a wetlands that's to the south of the site. And when this fill pile was put in, I don't doubt that there might have been a seep from that wetland into the that flowed down the intermittent water course. And at that time, back before there was any wetlands requirements, they could have installed a pipe. As I said, there was no evidence of it, or they could have just had a blind drain. They put boulders in to allow it to leach through. The only thing I can tell you is that it shouldn't have any direct impact to our drainage in the site. If we do intercept a pipe, then we can route that into the wetlands and adjust our piping to go over it, under it. But I don't see that as being an issue. I got a feeling it's probably a stone drain that was put in before the fill was put in, which was pretty common back in those days. They didn't want to spend money for a pipe, and there was probably excess rock on the site, and they probably put a stone French drain type of thing that went through there, and it's been there for whenever, since the original application was done. So that answers the questions. I think I'm going to turn it over to Steve Danzer to kind of go over his comments and recommendations in terms of mitigation, And then we have Tracy, if there's any comments in terms of her input into the to the proposed application.
Thank you, Larry. For the record, my name is Stephen Danzer. I'm a soil scientist, professional wetland scientist, office in Stamford, Connecticut. I'm going to be very brief. Basically, since the last meeting, that there was still an outstanding question about the area in the rear of Building 3, about historical disturbance to that area. So I went back and I looked at aerials that were publicly available through Connecticut Eco, imported into my geographic information system, and I looked at some of the topo data that's out there going back to the 1990s. I issued one memo on February 4th, which I think you all have, and then due to the second staff report and some additional information that I had received, I decided that I needed to make a better effort to go out and look at the site despite the snow, because there was a question about how extensive the disturbance may or may not have been into that area. So on Sunday, I waded out into the snow, and I was actually able to see pretty much what I wanted to see. And based on that, I issued another memo, which I believe has been submitted, and I'm assuming that you didn't have a time to read. It was only a page and a third, so it was very short. So I'm just going to summarize in 4 quick points of my findings and where we're headed from there. First of all, my opinion is that the topography in the area in back of Building 3 has not changed substantially from at least the 1990s. There's been no significant amount of filling back there since at least the 1990s. What happened before the 1990s, 1990 in particular, I have no idea. But that's as far back as I could trace. What I did find was that there was an area of vegetative clearing that had happened in a small area that straddles the wetland line. Vegetation had been removed apparently sometime between 2004 and 2006. As it's been noted here by numerous parties, currently there's 2 small boats, a trailer, and a pickup truck. Part of it's in the upland, part of it extends into the wetland. Again, the topography in that area has not been substantially changed. The impact is basically removal of vegetation, compaction of soils, and they might have put a couple of inches of gravel over time just to level the area out. So basically, the disturbance has been more compaction and removal of vegetation. Based on that, we prepared a restoration plan for that area. Tracy Chalifo, landscape architect, was tasked with doing that, and I worked with her, and we basically did it over time over the weekend. And I'm going to move this on to her, and she can explain the restoration plan.
Good evening. For the record, this is Tracy Chalifo, landscape architect located in Danbury, Connecticut. I worked closely with Mr. Danzer on this wetland mitigation plan. So as he mentioned, a portion of the wetlands vegetation was removed from, and also those vehicles are parked within part of the buffer zone as well. So the intention here was to create a very robust planting, restoration, and mitigation plan. And based on the amount of space we have there, we're able to fit, I would say, 2 canopy trees. So we're proposing an Acer rubrum and a Quercus bicolor, the swamp white oak, and Acer rubrum's red maple. So we're providing some canopy there. And then further back closer to the woodland line, we're proposing some native spice bush. Those tolerate shade very well, so they're great to transition to that woodland line. And then in front of that, we have a row of sweet pepper bush. We have a viburnum, which is a very large shrub or a large tree, this particular species of viburnum. And then as we get closer to the driveway area, it becomes just a little bit more formal, but still all native, in that we have a mass of inkberry, Ilex glabra. And then we have some winterberry holly, which will provide a lot of fruit for wildlife. and some red twig dogwood also sort of behind the storage containers in that area. So again, the intention is to create a very robust planting. These shrubs should grow together within the next couple of years and really create a reforestation of the area. Prior to planting, silt fence would be installed to protect the wetlands beyond. And as Mr. Danzer mentioned, maybe there's about 1 to 3 inches of sort of gravelly fill in there, and that would be removed before these plants are installed. Thank you very much.
This is Larry Edwards again. I think we're back to the commission. I think we think we've answered all of your questions from the last meeting and in the staff comments, and we are basically looking for any other additional comments you may have.
All right, we'll start with Commissioner Spence.
Okay, thank you for pulling back the LOD. I do notice though that not all of the sheets, the LOD that's behind the storage shed, some of the sheets still indicate, in fact, that one that's on the screen right now still indicates that finger coming out. So that just needs to be updated on all of the sheets to make sure that there's no confusion.
Okay.
Okay. And then you had said about planting the basins with grass. Did I hear you correctly?
In the basins themselves, yes. We would be putting in just a wetlands mix. We specified I think it's New England wetlands mix. And that's all that we are proposing, because again, as a water quality basin, they generally like to be maintained to some extent because you don't want them overgrown. But that's what we feel was the best choice for this. It is a dry basin. It does not have water in it all the time. So it's strictly a means to treat and detain the stormwater.
Now, is that including the rain garden?
The rain garden we will plant because that's a little different, and we do have a planting list for that. Because again, that's a much smaller basin, and it's not taking a lot of flow from the site.
Right. Okay. There was one more question on the detail sheet. There was an unidentified figure that I'm assuming, where'd it go? Oh, on D1, that the, is that on the bottom, in the center bottom of D1, is that the oil sand separator?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, that's a detail for that.
Okay, thank you. Oh, I'm curious, how come so much parking is needed? That's quite a bit beyond what P&Z requires, and I'm hesitant to. I don't want to say. I'm hesitant to have so much parking there if it's not required, because it's in a very important upland review area to the Paquonic River. So can you explain why so much parking is needed?
We're basically showing the parking based on what the applicant feels he's trying to expand his business to some extent. And when you put the ratio of the trucks, service trucks, and that with the size of the building and the number of spaces you need for the trucks and the service trucks themselves, it adds up to a lot of spaces. And we see this in most any use that we have, the number, just in the purpose of the buildings themselves, the square footage dictates a significant amount of parking, because the buildings are 2,400 square feet. You're basically required to have, I think it's 5 per 1,000. So you need basically 10, almost 11 per each building. So that's 33 spaces just to meet that criteria that the zoning has for the use. And then you put in the fact that the use is also going to include service trucks, and then the service trucks have to have a parking place, and then the person who
What happened?
I don't
Larry,
know.
you got muted.
You
Mr.
got
Edwards,
muted,
you got
Larry.
Larry, you're muted.
I'm sorry, did you get any of that?
You got some of it.
Okay. Basically, if you look at just for the building itself, the 3 buildings, you have a requirement of, I believe it's 5 per 1,000. So you're going to have about a dozen per building, and then you're going to have, that's 30 some odd spaces just for the zoning use for those buildings. And then you take into account that he's going to have a service type of business, which is going to have service trucks. And then for each service truck, there has to be a place for the employee to park. And that all adds up. So when you come down to it, for what he is trying to do, and it isn't an overly extensive use, it adds up to a lot of spaces when you meet all the zoning requirements.
Okay. Then I guess my last question is, I think I might have asked it last time, but pardon me if I didn't remember. Is there going to be any salt storage, chemical storage, fertilizer storage, all the kind of things that landscapers and plow drivers and that kind of thing normally have? What's
No,
the story with
and
any
you
of
asked
those?
that question last time, and I forgot to give you my answer this time. I'm sorry. No, the only thing that's going to be stored on the site is stone material in the bunkers would be stone material and wood chip materials. That's what's proposed for the bunkers. That would be the only material stored on the site.
Okay. Oh, on your sheet S1, the markers, you have the wetland markers notated in their places, but it's still not in the legend.
Yes, it is.
It is? Why am I not seeing it?
They did
Wetland
change
markers,
the
the
legend.
bottom.
Because I wasn't looking for little bullseyes, that's what it was.
Last time, Lois, it didn't match. That's why.
Yeah, you're correct, but and now it does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Then I think that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Spence. Anything from Commissioner Gingras?
No, I'm good. I got everything.
Thank you, Commissioner Mastracco.
I'm good. No questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Hall. You're on mute. Commissioner Hall.
That should fix that. Sorry about that. I want to thank Dr. Danzer for his supplemental comments and the 2 photographs of the 1990 contours and the 2016 contours. Those answered all the questions that I had. I drove the site recently, and this explained everything. So I really have no further questions.
All right, thank you. This is,
Keith, can I make one comment?
sure.
Okay. Mr. Edwards, you had not received this yet. The town engineer actually reviewed the other supplemental submission that you gave. And I just wanted to say that I will send them to you, but there was everything seemed to be addressed and they were minor things that just need to show up on the map. And also there was a bond estimate form given and the recommended bond is for $40,000.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Yep.
All right, anything else from, how about Denise? Do you have anything to add?
I guess not.
Okay. This is a public hearing, so is there anybody in the public who would like to speak in favor of this application? Look like anybody would like to speak in opposition to this application? Anybody like to speak about this application in general nature? All right, none of that. Anything to read into the record?
Yes. Sorry about that. So we will go with sorry about that. Exhibit 8, we left off in Exhibit 7 from the last meeting. So Exhibit 8 was a updated plan set titled Site Improvements by J. Edwards. The revision date was February 3rd. Exhibit 9 was an updated stormwater management plan, and the revision date was also February 3rd. Exhibit 10 is a response to engineer comments. The document was dated February 3rd. Exhibit 11 was a response to inland wetland agent comments, and that was also dated February 3rd. Exhibit 12 was a supplemental comments number 2 by Steve Danzer, and that document was dated February 4th. Exhibit 13 was updated inland wetland agent comments, and that revision date was February 4th. Exhibit 14 was updated town engineer comments. That was updated February 5th. Exhibit 15 was a wetland mitigation plan and plant list. That document was dated February 6th. Exhibit 16 was supplemental comments by Steve Danzer. That document was dated February 7th. Exhibit 17 was a stormwater management plan, revision date February 8th. Exhibit 18 was a bond estimate form, and Exhibit 19 was response to town engineer comments dated February 8th, and Exhibit 20 was the last comments from the town engineer, which only included minor. Yep. That's it.
Okay, thank
One
you.
more,
Yes.
real quick. I have another question for Mr. Edwards, if I may.
Absolutely.
Is the lighting being updated?
Is the lighting, that's a good question. We haven't got to that final design. Yes, zoning is going to make us update the lighting. That's going to be part of the zoning application. We haven't finished that yet, so that's why we don't show it on this plan usually when we go to wetlands.
Okay, can I assume that it's gonna be full cutoff lighting and that there will be no intrusion into the wetland areas?
Oh, there will be definitely no intrusion into the wetlands areas. And I don't think the zoning is going to let us get through the permit process without having them designed that way. So yes, I can say, yes, they will to both questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, someone like to make a motion to close this public hearing, move it to deliberations?
I make a motion that we close this public hearing and move it to deliberations.
Motion from Commissioner Gingrich, second.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Spence. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously.
All right.
All
Great.
right,
Thank you.
thank you, everybody. All right, enforcement, NOV discussion, IWC 2019-15, 1380 Monroe Turnpike, disturbance in upland review area, update.
Good evening. I'm Attorney Laurel Fedor for the estate of John J. Stopian with regard to 1380 Monroe Turnpike. And I wanted to let you know that we're still working on getting a current condition survey. The reason why we haven't had it completed at this time is because I've had a denial by the first surveyor, and then I contacted another one, and the second surveyor wasn't available. So we're still working on obtaining a surveyor.
Okay,
I figured I would come in person and tell you that. And so that's essentially it. We're still working on fixing the problem.
okay. Anybody have any questions or for Attorney Fedor? All right, well, I guess that's the update. What do we have any time limits or time frames that we're in risk of violating? Denise?
Sorry, I was trying to get to my mic.
Oh.
We never had put a time limit out there because I know that there was the probate and stuff like that. I mean, this has been going for a year now, so I don't know. But we didn't have any time limits, or we're not in danger of passing any because none were set.
And no new activity or anything is happening on the site, right? It's pretty much like
Not that
shut
I know
down.
of.
Okay. I don't know. What do we do with that? We just say, okay.
I mean, I just record the update and keep going, I guess.
All right. Thank you for the
Yeah.
update.
If I can have 60 days and go from there.
Well, I think we should definitely get updates regularly, whether anything's happening or not, so that we know that, we're not being forgotten, I guess.
No, I understand. That's why I wanted to come in person, so to speak, instead of just doing an email. So you understand that we are still,
They're at the mercy of somebody else. So.
Yeah, I get it. All right. Let us get back to us in 60 days. Let us know what's going on.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Good night. All right. Remediation submissions, IWR 2020-02, 224 Guinea Road. Remediation plan to remove fill and replant the wetland area.
That will be Dave again. He's coming back on.
Coming back on. Thank you. Good evening, members of the commission. Dave Bjorklund, president of the firm of Spath Bjorklund Associates. We have offices in Monroe. I'm also joined tonight by Michael Klein, who has served as the soil scientist and the biologist on this project. When we left at the last meeting, I think we had resolved the issues with regard to the restoration of the wetland area and the timing. I think the details of the restoration had been worked out. What had been left up in the air was Denise and I had discovered just hours before the meeting that there had been a map recorded indicating a conservation easement over the wetland area to be restored. However, that document had not been filed. The map got filed, the document didn't. So what the actual conditions of the conservation easement were left up in the air. Denise and I have been working over the last week or so to come up with a conservation easement that I think is going to be satisfactory to my clients. I hope it's satisfactory to the commission. I think I'll turn it over to Denise right now to pick up on the paper trail that exists in town hall, and Michael and I are both here to answer any questions that you might have.
So to update everybody on the status of the conservation easement, as Dave said, did do research, pulled several conservation easement agreements that have already been in file. We kind of molded something that made sense, updating it, and that's what that was what I emailed to everybody today. It says draft on it because I'm trying to get legal to review it. And right now, Barbara is not allowed to review it. She has not been given permission. I've been told I have to work with the other town attorney, Frank Lito. I sent him an email yesterday, updated him on everything. I have not heard anything back. So right now, the status of it is it's in the town attorney's hand, and we need some feedback because it's hard, for the commission to know if what we put together flies by with the town, I guess.
Okay.
Can I make one comment on the wording of the easement? It looks good. My one comment on it is in the third paragraph under the grant of easement. where it talks about this shall not preclude the grantor, its successors and sign from removing dead or diseased vegetation. I think we should add invasive, because invasive never is dead and it's never diseased. It's always very, very well flowered.
Removing dead, comma, diseased, or
Or
invasive.
invasive.
Okay. So, I pulled these from two and I was hoping that, one was a more recent one and one I really liked the wording of. And that's how this one came about.
I think it looks good.
So, but, if the town, the town of Monroe is who owns the easement, I guess, I need them to okay it. We need the blessing from them. So I don't know how we want to proceed with not having input from them right now.
And this is Dave Bjorklund, and yeah, I'm going to forward the draft to my clients so they can get it to their attorney. But obviously, once the town attorney approves it, it's going to have to then at that point go back to my client's attorney. So
Right.
hopefully we can move this along. I mean, I think everybody's motivated to get this file put away.
I have, are we moving on from the conservation easement language or?
Yeah, I just, one more comment is I just didn't know, is like, depending upon how we go, if that's the only thing that's left, I don't know if we want to hold it for that or make it as a condition somehow. That's just my thoughts because it's kind of out of our control.
Well, that brought me to my next
Got
statement, I guess. In looking at the property, I looked at it in the timeline on the Monroe GIS, and we seem to have totally ignored that wetland to the west. There's a conservation easement around that too, and it was filled up to the edge, and it appears that it could be a vernal pool, judging by the fact that it's completely isolated, and it seems to have water in it during the time that the pictures were taken from the satellites, and there's 5 of them. But we haven't addressed trying to establish a new buffer, trying to correct the conservation easement disturbance. And I'm wondering if we're doing one, we should probably do them both.
Dave Bjorklund for the applicant. I think, that both easements show on the map that's recorded.
Right.
And the way Denise and I have discussed this, with the description as to where the easement is, we're going to reference the map. So whatever easement is finally adopted and approved, it's going to apply to both any conservation easement on the property. Just as far as the condition of that area, and Mike, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think about 1.5 years or 2 years ago, Mike and I met Scott Schatzline out and we looked at that area. The area itself hadn't been disturbed. It had been disturbed right up to the edge of it, but the vegetation had been reestablished. The property owner hadn't been up there doing any work for a long time. And like I said, I think this was probably 2 years ago when we were hoping to get this application fired up again. So I think if we just get a conservation easement on that area, we should be okay.
Well, then I'll ask Mr. Klein, is that, if that is a vernal pool, and we don't know that it isn't, would that be the proper way to leave it, or should we establish some more shade and perhaps some more ground cover for the inhabitants?
Let's see, Mike's not connected yet. Whoop.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. We lost you visually, but we could hear you.
Mike.
Yeah, I dropped the video because I'm having a problem here. That area is not a vernal pool. We've looked at that several times over the years that this action has been in place, and it is an isolated wetland, but it's not a vernal pool.
So is it your professional opinion that it does not need any augmentation to maintain and or increase its viability as a wetland?
Correct.
Okay. And how about, we need markers around that one too. We need wetland markers all over the place.
We
Well,
can
got
only
them
put the wetlands on their property because that, if I'm not mistaken, that's. Oh, I
This is-
thought the isolated one kind of goes over to property one as well.
Well, yeah, but they could put the markers on their side.
Yeah,
But
that's
they're the
what
ones
I'm
that
saying.
it goes to in the first place. The other area, the other side of it is all wooded, so you can't even tell it's there.
Hmm.
So let's just have them add some markers to that one.
Dave Bjorklund for the applicant, that's a good idea.
Hmm.
Okay. Anything else, Commissioner Spence?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any of the other commissioners have anything to comment on this application? Commissioner Gingras? No. Commissioner Massaraco?
No question.
No questions? No questions, Commissioner Hall?
No questions.
Okay, so with the, what do you call it? The is it that, I'm drawing a blank here. That issue that's not resolved, the easement,
The easement, yeah.
I mean, what could we do? What could we do now?
I like I said, I
Can we move this to deliberation or do we have to wait?
I don't see why we can, and we just have to put it as some sort of condition that it's being worked on. We're waiting for approval from town legal, and hopefully Dave's client will be in agreement with what Dave and I put together.
Well, there's no harm in waiting actually because they can't do anything for a while anyway. We're buried under 2 feet of snow.
But do we want to keep this open? Because we're waiting, I don't know.
Could we close? Oh, sorry. Could we close the meeting, like the meeting and just wait on deliberation, or do we have to do that right away?
Well, if we're gonna close the meeting, we can
Should
deliberate.
deliberate.
Because you can't add any more information after the meeting is closed.
Well, this
Gotcha.
is, because this is a remediation, kind of doesn't fall into like the statutory time frame. This is just something that we're trying to fix, in essence. So you have time. I mean, you can just put a placeholder on it if you want, or whatever works for the commission. You know what I mean? You don't have to open or close or do whatever. We can table this until there's more information for the the easement or the documentation that you're looking for. It's up to the commission and the applicant or the owner.
Well, I'm sure the owner and the applicant want to get a decision, but I guess could we just move this to deliberation and just discuss it there?
Of course.
There's no reason to keep it open, right? So I'll make a
You don't
motion to
even-
close. You don't have to make a motion?
You don't have to close it.
Yeah, because it's a review. This wasn't like a public hearing or anything.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So let me just move along.
Yes.
This is going to pick up in deliberations. All right. Now we're on to application hearing termination. Termination of the type of hearing only. I probably should recuse myself for this, or does that not really matter?
Wait a minute.
You can. Yeah, if you want to just for a minute.
I will. So Commissioner Spence, just take over this this part of the meeting. I'll be back.
Okie dokie. Okay, this is the, the application hearing determination
Yes.
for IWC 2019-12RA1 for Main Street 5 Victoria Drive, amendment to approval wording. This is a modification, amendment modification for to a previous permit approval. I don't know that we need, I don't think we need a hearing. I mean, we don't need a public hearing or anything because
Yeah.
No, it's completely up to the commission how they'd like to. And you're right. I didn't think it would go to public hearing, but that's completely up to you guys. This was something that was already discussed. So
did everybody get and read the permit approval modification?
it was in their packets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you feel that we need to have detailed discussion on it, or should we move it right to deliberations?
I'd say we should move it right.
Donna's saying no.
No.
But it's not an application.
It's a modification, though. We've already approved the application, but they had to modify the wording.
The wording of the approval, yeah. So this is a little different.
This is not a public, this shouldn't go to a public meeting then, because it's not.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a very minor,
It's just so we could get this going and then get the, I mean.
I mean, you can do it at the next meeting. You just would just say regular review and then.
Yeah, I would say let's do this as a regular review.
okay, so we could bring that up then at the next meeting. Is that what you're saying, Donna? We can't just deal with it tonight?
In all honesty, Lois, I don't know the legality of it. I just put it through the normal process. So if you just want to do a regular review and you can approve it next meeting.
Yeah, let's do it that way, just in case.
Yeah, okay.
Just
All
to
right,
be
so do I
consistent.
hear a motion that we bring this to a regular review?
I make a motion that we bring this to a regular review at the next meeting.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
DJ will second. Okay, all in favor, say aye. And raise.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Keith, you can come back.
Okay. I am back. All right. Now we're on to deliberation session. And deliberate on completed hearings. Committee items agenda as determined by the commission. So we are starting probably with 74 Enterprise Drive. Any discussion on the application for 74 Enterprise Drive? Anyone?
I move that we have the staff draft a approval letter with conditions.
Those conditions are?
Oh, no, yeah. Find them. On the page. Oh. Thank you.
Well, we know 3-year monitoring is one of them.
Yes. 3-year monitoring. A referral to P&Z to make sure that Larry assured us that he would, wait, no, I'm getting my.
Dave.
I'm getting, sorry about that. No, I don't think I had any. I got my 2 applications mixed up.
All right, want to restate your motion then?
I move that we direct staff to draft a letter of approval.
Do we have a second for the motion? Oh,
Sabrina, come here. Aye.
I think
again,
Ross,
we got
Ross, yeah, I see his
Second
hand
by
up.
Commissioner Massaraco. All in favor? Aye. I do not see BJ, and he's muted,
Aye.
so we have 4.
Yeah, what happened? Yeah, BJ is muted and he's
Muted,
disappeared.
and there he is.
I'm here.
In favor?
In favor.
All right, motion passed unanimously.
Okay,
On
so
to the
the only condition basically is the 3-year monitoring, which is a standard condition anyway, so.
Yep,
Well,
okay.
it would
Thank
include
you.
all the standard conditions of an
Yeah.
approval.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I just want to make sure because we started down one path. I want to make sure I had it.
And our reasons would be 1 and 3.
Yep.
All right, IWC 2020-10, 472 Pepper Street, parking expansion and structure of drainage to accommodate runoff continued from 1/27/21. Any discussion on that application? Anyone?
No comment here.
No comment. I'm good.
I move that we direct staff to, I keep pulling up the wrong application. To draft a letter of approval with conditions.
And those conditions are?
Now you're asking the hard questions. I gotta wait, get that right. For some reason, I got all my applications mixed up here. Here we go. Okay. This is the one, referral to P&Z, even though Larry assured us that the lighting would be cut off and no security lighting or anything like that would encroach into wetlands areas. To pull back that section of LOD behind the shed on all of the sheets. It's on some right now, not all. Need 3-year monitoring once again. Oh, this one is one I wanted to talk with the commission. If they do discover a pipe or something that is bringing water from someplace to that outlet that Larry said might be the thing where they had, rocks and stuff that they put. Since nobody really knows,
Well,
he said, what?
They did go out, and Scott's comments did address that there was no pipe found.
No, that's a different pipe that you guys are talking 2 different pipes.
Yeah.
All right,
pipes.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Then he said if they did find a pipe that they would redirect it and have it dump into some of the wetlands. We can't do that. If there's going to be any changes at all, if they discover a pipe is bringing the water to that outlet, and if they discover that at all, and there's going to be any changes made whatsoever, we have to know about it and approve it, because you can't just go mucking around in the wetlands and making more, contributions to it without review. So I'm not quite sure how to word that.
I would say start with something about increase water input to or discovery of other, off-site water not infiltration, but it's from off-site, right? It would be off-site.
We don't know where it's from. That's just it. He said it could be from the wetland that's to the south, but it also might be the wetland from the north, because there's a pond that's pretty close to that. And there was areas in between there. That whole thing might have been wetlands at one time. So it could have come from any of those sections that are there. So how about we just say if there's any piping that
Pipe
is going
discovered
to...
and impact wetlands, yeah.
Hmm?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was talking out loud.
If there's any piping that's going to be moved, or if piping is discovered and it's going to be changed or moved or needs any addressing, that has to come back to the commission with it.
If pipe discovered and impact to wetlands results apply
Or
for
would
permit
result,
modification.
or would result. Because they shouldn't do anything.
Right, if
Without-
sites discovered impact of wetlands. Plan.
I'm not quite sure the right way to put that.
Well, luckily you'll get a chance to review it.
Right.
Yeah, I'll figure something out and you guys can tell me if you like it or not.
Okay,
Right.
let me see, the next one was, in the future. I don't know how we can, if we can even do this, but if salt, fertilizer, et cetera, is to be stored on site anywhere, it must be covered and contained. Because, I mean, it changes, uses change. This landscaper may not be a plow driver, but the next guy might be.
Would that be covered under P and Z as well? I'm thinking out loud.
It might be. There might be, but we're looking at it strictly as a wetland factor.
Right, I'm just saying, depending, I mean, any storage of materials, unless we just say any storage.
Well, is there a way to write in a compliance authorization for a compliance check?
I don't know if I've ever heard of one of those.
Well, like the zoning enforcement officer has to go out and check that things are being, complying to the regulations, or people aren't doing stuff after a CO, stuff like that. Do we have that at your level, Denise, that you go out?
Not necessarily. I mean, I don't go out and check every site. If there's a potential violation, I might check, but
Yeah, so
I
you don't
wouldn't
have
get anything
any.
done in the office if I was driving around town checking everybody's sites.
Not so, but it's not exactly what I meant. What I meant was that if there was other things that you have to go and check on, like as a regular course of your duties, to check for compliance to wetlands regulations, but you don't. You're saying you don't at all.
Not unless there's a feeling that something is amiss.
Okay.
I
So
don't
it's all reactive.
It's
There's
typically
no-
reactive, yes.
Reactive. Like again, I'm thinking maybe someone has some kind of, storage tank, and it has to be in compliance with some wetland regulation or something like we're talking about here.
Right.
That you have to check, but you don't have any of that in this town. Maybe.
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, it's just like a property owner, it's like, I don't go looking at every property owner. If I notice that trees seem to be down and there's wetlands nearby, then I investigate it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, because, it's a good point that Commissioner Spence brought up. How do we,
How do you
and
get
going
proactive,
forward,
reactive?
like I remember when, when I built a building, Town of Trumbull said, you got to put, what was it? Just in case it happened, my building happened to be filled with landscapers that were cleaning their trucks, I had to put shook drain in front of all the doors into an oil separator. But they were making a presumption of what the buildings would be used for. So again, we're making we're kind of making a presumption, even though there's a tenant there that is, a landscaper. If we're trying to protect something, there's got to be something if we want to ensure that. Well, let me ask you this question. Do you have the right to drive through any commercial property in town? Just
Yes and no. I mean, I don't just go on someone's property without, letting them know ahead of time or knocking on a door or whatever. I'm always, if I go onto a property, I always go find somebody and let them know that I'm there.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you could have like a open invitation to just inspect.
Yeah, now,
that type of thing.
I don't think the town really wants that to happen either.
And,
nor would residents,
I hate to say that a lot of landscapers also plow.
Oh, every single one of them. Every
In my
single one
town,
of them.
it's that way. Yeah, in my town,
Landscaper
it's that
tells you
way.
that he's
So-
not doing commercial snow plowing.
Right,
If
and
he's
I
doing commercial, if
understand
he's doing commercial maintenance, he's doing commercial snow plowing.
Right, and I understand it. So the concern of whether they have fertilizer or they have salt because of the other, probably more than likely, they're gonna have both at
Well,
some
I'm
point.
not so concerned about fertilizer because only someone would be very unbright to leave their fertilizer out and get rained on, right?
We
Because
caught somebody
look,
filling up their pipes from a town pond in order to fertilize. So they were putting the pipes into our town water ponds to get water into their town in order to spread fertilizer on someone's yard.
yeah, that's thinking of bulk storage fertilizer, but yeah, okay.
But it's you know, still it's they contaminated a aquatic structure with
Yeah.
fertilizer.
How about as a P&Z referral comment to request that they require covered storage? Can we
Because
do
of
that?
its sensitivity to the wetland. I don't see why you couldn't do something like that.
What did Monroe Aggregates have to do with their storage bins? Did they have to have a cover over it?
Which is Monroe Aggregates.
The one on Pepper Street there, it's I think it was before you came in, Denise.
Okay.
It was, it's an indoor crushing facility on Pepper Street.
Yeah, I think they did have to cover it.
There's
They
one that you guys had to, there was one that was covered in Enterprise, I believe Enterprise Drive. I don't remember the business, but I remember the guy might even be attached to 74. I don't know. I think it was a landscape or they have a salt storage in the back, and they have it all covered up, locked. P&Z had required it to be contained and locked so that people
Is
could
that
get in.
Elm? Is that Elm, Eastern Land Management?
I wish I remembered. I know it was on Enterprise Drive. That's all I can remember. Huh?
I know there have been others when we've had discussions about the kinds of doors and the direction of the opening so that it didn't face west because that's the prevailing wind. And we've had a variety of others in the past.
Yeah, I wish I could remember which one it was. I just remember having to take a look at it.
Salt storage. I mean, Elm is the only big landscape outfit that's up there, I think.
Are they
Might have
like,
been one.
when you first drive into the driveway, are they like the first part of that building?
That new building that's like a 2-story, but like it's like
It's a long building. I remember the wetlands is behind it. I mean, I know it's on the, east side of
it could have
Enterprise
been
Drive.
it could have been 74 Enterprise, but we would have picked that up we just had the application. Do anybody remember a salt storage in that application? Well,
Maybe Dave.
either way, we
oh,
don't
Dave
necessarily
Dave
have to
Bob.
know which facility it was,
164,
but
maybe 164. 169 was over there. Maybe it's 164 because they're back for another building. It might be 164. It might be further down.
okay.
Well,
Well,
it doesn't really matter. The point is, do we
No.
make a referral comment to P&Z? I mean,
I'm confused which one we're doing now.
we're on.
We
we're
go
on
back to the one we're supposed to be deliberating on.
472.
Figure out what we're doing now.
We're on 472 Pepper Street, and we're trying to resolve Commissioner Spence's comment about potentially protecting a salt stockpile from bleeding into the wetlands. That's what we're discussing.
You want to request covered storage for any chemicals that may.
leachable chemicals. Leachable materials? How about leachable material? Because that includes anything that will melt and dissolve. So it doesn't include sand unless it's got salt in it.
Well, let me ask you this question. Oh no, the separator wouldn't help with salt.
No.
It would help
Nothing
help with oil and
I
solids.
think that's fine. So the referral that I would give to P&Z is that that they the referral is that lighting will not spill into the wetland areas and request covered storage for any items that may be that could potentially leach into the wetland area.
And if they say that they're not having any, how does that help?
Well, then if they, I mean, we would be able to know when they go for a CO if they have some sort of chemicals out there. I mean,
Well,
Yeah, but they're
doesn't
not
that,
gonna-
doesn't that stick to the property regardless of who the owner and the user is? Isn't that
Yeah.
become part of the land record
Good,
for
yeah.
for the piece of property? The property
Right.
owns that
Yeah.
decision, not the owner, not the renter.
correct.
So I don't think it matters. If it's attached to the land record, then that's what we get.
Okay, well, you know what? If maybe you could just talk to Will about a good way to word that? No?
I don't think we can do that anymore.
Yeah, no, we can't really talk to Will.
So, but I can talk to the planning director and see.
Okay, yeah, explain, you know, I'll keep thinking
You'll
about
see
it.
you'll see the wording.
Right, okay. Okay, and the bond estimate is the last thing that I had.
Oh,
We talked about it, but we didn't have a sheet or anything. And reasons 1 and 3.
the bond estimate was recommendation is 40,000.
It's 40,000, yeah.
Yes.
They didn't contest that or anything, right? They didn't.
Nope, I read that. They know. I said
Okay.
it before. It was in the record.
So we're in the middle of a motion.
You're right. So we need a second.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Ingris. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right. So
All right,
this is
great.
just for a draft approval.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, what did we decide to do about
Guinea Road.
IWR 2020-02? Yeah, Guinea Road.
I like Donna's idea. I think we should just table it. Maybe the wording will come up by the next meeting. And because they can't really do anything.
Yeah, I agree. Why don't we table it?
Maybe table next meeting.
Until we get that, yeah, until we get that finalization of what's the easement. Because I don't want to like, oops, surprise, and we've already approved something.
Denise, how long ago did you contact Attorney Lito?
Yesterday, because I found out yesterday when I was working with Barbara that I can no longer work with her. That she has not been given permission to.
On this matter.
Right now, it sounds like on most matters.
Well, she was outside counsel, which costs the town, I think, more money than our in-house counsel.
So.
Yeah, so, all right, well, let's see what happens. Well, we can see what happens if we get a response from him by the next meeting.
Right.
And if we're getting close, like if it's Monday of
I'll be
whatever
pushing,
before next.
trust me.
Yeah,
I'll
well, if it's by Monday and you haven't, for some reason, nothing has happened, just let me know and I'll see what I can do.
Okay. You'll probably be hearing from me.
Okay. So now we're on to bond release, reduction reports, none. Time extensions, none. IWC agent activity reports. Go ahead.
Hold on.
Yep.
I'm just finishing my notes, sorry. Agent approvals, IAA 212104, 54 Garter Road. Pool, deck, shed, and outdoor kitchen in the upland review area. IAA 2021-05, 251 Fan Hill, generator and a pad. Permitted uses as of right, IPU 2018-01, Department of Public Works, road repair, replacement, and or general maintenance. IW section 4.2C, expiration 3/28/2023.
All right, thank you. Enforcement deliberations, no public input. Doesn't look like there's anything there at all. General discussions, other, we got the minutes of December 16th, 2020, January 12th, and January 13th of 2021. A lot of minutes.
And don't you know, I forgot to bring mine. Dag nabbit.
Move to approve the minutes of December 16th with changes. And what I can do is leave them out and send the changes to Donna, so it's easier for her to figure out.
Thank you, sorry.
Rather than, it's nothing really seriously dynamic. Okay, on page 2 of 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs up from the bottom. In the middle of the paragraph, it says he believes, if the commission believes there is any incompletion to the application before them, then they should not approve it. We have written it down as would not approve it, and it should be should. And then in the middle of the next page, after the where it says Chairman Romano left the meeting, the next paragraph. Oh boy. Commissioner Spence explained that she would like to see the detention basin upgraded to a horseshoe pattern to give incoming water from the road more chance to travel through and be cleaned before it is discharged into the wetlands. And that is I'll send that to you, Donna.
Okay.
And the last page 4, third paragraph down, attorney Finn advised concerning the intervener's conceptual plan that a conceptual plan cannot be considered reasonable, including alternatives. That's just an insertion. I think that's it for those.
I second it.
Okay, a second from Commissioner Kingris. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All right. Minutes are accepted. We have the minutes of
Okay.
January 12th.
Not much to do on this one either. This one looks pretty good. Underneath deliberation of the completed hearing, the second paragraph starts with Commissioner Romano, Chairman Romano. There's a typo in there. Asked if the commission felt that the combined remediation plan and site development plan was the appropriate type of application. Blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
The next one is the very next paragraph. There is just something to be added to that. After the word combined, just add, and you know what? I didn't write down suggested wording. There was a little, because the two applications are different, and they are different, comma, have different timelines and requirements, and are to involved to be monitored properly. I didn't write down, I guess I only got to the first one. No. If you would just strike a paragraph rather than try to fix it, because I don't have suggested wording, we can either table these or just strike this paragraph. So it's up to you guys. Let me know what you think. On page 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs up. Commissioner Spence stated, so is me, stated she does not believe this plan will sufficiently rehydrate that area after the filling is complete. She suggested a well in the area, funnel for the reservoir. Those two are okay. She also suggested an alternative fill plan that would point the drainage towards the west. That wasn't the meaning of what I said. So we can maybe just strike that line perhaps.
Okay.
Anybody care about that?
Fine by me.
Okay, let's just strike that line. And that's all I had for that. Yeah, for those minutes.
All right, we've got a motion to accept these minutes with changes. Second?
Second.
Second. Commissioner Gingrich, I think, Ken. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, these minutes are accepted with changes. All right, minutes of January 13th, 2021. The regular meeting.
Move to accept as drafted, approve as drafted.
Motion to accept, second by Commissioner Gingrich. Wow, it's a rally.
Hey, how do you think I feel? I get to read these things all the time.
Commissioner Gingrich, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The minutes of January 13th, 2021 are accepted, and a close third, Commissioner Hall.
Yes.
Okay, where were we now? Regulation Amendment Committee.
I haven't done anything. I've been too busy doing minutes.
Yeah, that's fine. Public Outreach Committee.
There we go.
Correspondence, nothing. Are we pending items? 43 Bird's Eye Drive, Service Development Review Area. That's the one we just heard from tonight, right?
No, you heard 1380, not 43 Birdseye.
But that's related, right?
They're all related, correct?
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
So are they still in the loop? Are they still like in the?
I did notify the attorney just to let them know that she was going to be on tonight if they wanted to, and I didn't hear anything and they didn't show up, so.
All right. All right. IWB 2020-12, 118 Elm Street.
Letter went out because that's
Yeah.
the one we gave him the
Yeah.
60 days.
Okay. No, has he come in yet? Has he reached out to you yet?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Make a
this meeting?
motion, we close the meeting?
A motion from Commissioner Gingrich to close the meeting. A second by Commissioner Hall. All right. Very quick. All in favor? Aye.